Hi guys, Mrs. Westier here, 6th grade language arts teacher. I am going to read chapter 5 of Artemis Fowl to you. Excuse my pronunciation on some of these names, but I will try my best. I hope you're enjoying the book so far. I'm going to break this into 3 parts because it's long to listen to otherwise. So, chapter 5, which starts on page 78. Missing in action. Commander Root was sucking on a particularly noxious fungus cigar. Several of the retrieve squad had nearly passed out in the shuttle. Even the stench from the manacled troll seemed mild in comparison. Of course, no one said anything, their boss being touchier than a septic boil. Folly, on the other hand, delighted in antagonizing his superior. "None of your rancid stooges in here, Commander," he brayed the moment Root made it back to ops. "The computers don't like smoke." Root scowled, certain that Foley was making this up. Nevertheless, the commander was not prepared to risk a computer crash in the middle of an alert, and so doused his cigar in the coffee cup of a passing gremlin. "Now, Foley, what's this so-called alert? And it better be good this time." The Centaur had a tendency to go completely hyper over trivialities. He'd once gone to DEFCON 2 because his human satellite stations were out. "It's good, all good," Foley assured him. "Or should I say bad, very bad." Root felt the ulcer in his gut begin to bubble like a volcano. "How bad?" Foley punched up Ireland on the Eurosat. "We lost contact with Captain Short." "Why am I not surprised?" groaned Root, burying his face in his hands. "We had her all the way over the Alps." "The Alps? She took a land route?" Foley nodded. "Against regulations, I know, but everyone does it." The commander agreed grudgingly. Who could resist a view like that? As a rookie, he had been placed on report himself for the exact offense. "Okay, move on. When do we lose her?" Foley opened a viewer window on the screen. "This is the feed from Holly's helmet unit. Here we are over Disneyland Paris." The Centaur pressed the fast forward. "Now dolphins, blah, blah, blah. The Irish coastline. Still no worries. Look, her locator comes into shot. Captain Short is scanning for magic hotspots. Site 57 shows up red, so she heads for that one." "Why not Terra?" Folly snorted. "Terra? Every hippie fairy in the northern hemisphere will be dancing around the Fowl at the full moon. There'll be so many shields on, it'll look like the whole place is underwater." "Fine," grunted Root through gritted teeth. "Just get on with it, will you?" "All right, don't get your ears in a knot." Foley skipped several minutes of tape. "Now, here's the interesting bit. Nice smooth landing, hangs up the wings. Holly takes off the helmet." "Against regulations," interjected Root. Leap officers must never remove their headgear above ground unless this headgear is defective," completed Foley. "Yes, Commander, we all know what the handbook says, but are you trying to tell me that you never sneaked a breath of air after a few hours in the sky?" "No," admitted Root. "What are you, her fairy godmother or something? Get to the important part." Foley smirked behind his hand. Driving up Root's blood pressure was one of his favorite perks of the job. No one else would dare to do it. That was because everybody else was replaceable. Not Foley. He'd built the system from scratch, and if anyone else even tried to boot it up, a hidden virus would bring it crashing upon their pointy ears. The important part. Here we are. Look, suddenly Holly drops the helmet. It must land lens down because we lose the picture. We still got sound though, so I'll bring that up. Foley boosted the audio signal, filtering out background noise. "Not great quality. The mic is in the camera, so that was nose down in the dirt too." "Nice pea shooter," said a voice. Definitely human. Deep too. That usually meant big. Root raised an eyebrow. "Pea shooter? Slang for gun." Oh, then the importance of the simple statement struck him. "She drew her weapon?" "Just wait, it gets worse." "I don't suppose you would consider peaceful surrender," said a second voice. Just listening to it gave the commander shivers. "No," continued the voice, "I suppose not." "This is bad," said Root, his face uncharacteristically pale. "This feels like a setup. These 2 goons were waiting. How is that possible?" Holly's voice came through the speaker then, typically brazen in the face of danger. The commander sighed. At least she was alive. It was more bad news, though, as the parties exchanged threats, and the second human displayed an uncommon knowledge of fairy affairs. He knows about the ritual? Here's the worst bit. Root's jaw dropped. The worst bit? Holly's voice again, and this time layered with the mesmer. Now she has them, crowed Root, but apparently not. Not only did the mesmer prove ineffective, but the mysterious pair seemed to find it amusing. That's all there is from Holly, noted Folly. One of the mud people messes around with the camera for a bit, and then we lose everything. Root rubbed the creases between his eyes. Not much to go on. No visual, not even a name. We can't really be 100% for sure what we have. What sure that we have a situation. You want proof? Asked Folly, rewinding the tape. I'll give you proof. He ran the available video. Now watch this. I'm going to slow it right down. 1 frame per second. Root leaned in close to the screen, close enough to see the pixels. Captain Short comes in for a landing. She takes off her helmet, bends down, presumably to pick up an acorn, and there. Folly jabbed the pause screen, freezing the picture completely. Do you see anything unusual? The commander felt his ulcer churn into overdrive. Something had appeared in the top right corner of the frame. At first glance, it seemed like a shaft of light, but light from what, or reflected from what? Can you blow it up? No problem. Fully cut to the relevant area, increasing it by 400%. The light expanded to fill the screen. Oh no, breathed Root. There, on the monitor before them, in frozen suspension, was a hypodermic dart. There could be no doubt. Captain Holly Short was missing in action, most probably dead, but at the very least held captive by a hostile force. Tell me we still have the locator. Yep, strong signal, moving north at about 80 clicks an hour. Root was silent for a moment, formulating his strategy. Go to full alert and get retrieval out of their bunks and back down here. Prep them for a surface shot. I want full tactical and a couple of techies. You too, Foley. We may have to stop time on this one. 10-4, Commander. You want recon on this? Root nodded. You bet. I'll call in Captain Vane. He's our number 1. Oh, no, said Root. For a job like this, we need our very best, and that's me. I'm reactivating myself. Foley was so amazed he couldn't even formulate a smart comment. You're... Yes, Foley, don't act so surprised. I have more successful recons under my belt than any officer in history. Plus, I did my basic training in Ireland, back in the Top Hat and Shalanigan days. Sorry. Yes, but that was 500 years ago, and you were no spring bud then, not to put too fine a point on it. Root smiled dangerously. Don't you worry, Foley. I'm still running red hot, and I'll make up for my age with a really big gun. Now get a pod ready. I'm leaving on the next flare. Foley did what he was told without a single quip. When the commander got that glint in his eye, you hopped to and kept your mouth shut. But there was another reason for Foley's silent compliance. It had hit him that Holly could be in real trouble. Centaurs don't make many friends, and Foley was worried he might lose one of the few he had. Artemis had anticipated some technological advances, but nothing like the treasure trove of fairy hardware spread out on the 4-wheel drive's dashboard. Impressive, he murmured. You could abort this mission right now and still make a fortune in patents. Artemis ran a handheld scanner bar over the unconscious elf's wristband. He then fed the fairy characters into his PowerBook translator. This is a locator of some kind. No doubt this leprechaun's comrades are tracking us right now. Butler swallowed. Right now, sir? It would seem so. Or at any rate, they're tracking the locator. Artemis stopped speaking suddenly, his eyes losing focus as the electricity in his cranium sparked off another brave wave. Butler? The manservant felt his pulse quicken. He knew that tone. Something was afoot. Yes, Artemis? That Japanese whaler, the one seized by the port authorities, is she still tied up at the docks? Butler nodded. I believe so. Artemis twirled the locator around his index finger. Good. Take us down there. I believe it's time to let our diminutive friends know exactly who they're dealing with. Brute rubber stamped his own reactivation with a remarkable speed, very unusual for LEP upper management. Generally, it took months and several mind-crushingly dull meetings to approve any application to the recon squad. Luckily, Root had a bit of influence with the commander. It felt good to be back in a field uniform, and Root even managed to convince himself that the jumpsuit was no tighter around the middle than it used to be. The bulge, he rationalized, was caused by all the new equipment they jammed into these things. Personally, Root had no time for gadgetry. The only items the commander was interested in were the wings on his back and the multi-phased, water-cooled, tri-barreled blaster strapped to his hip, the most powerful production handgun under the world. Old to be sure, but it had seen Root through a dozen firefights, and it had made him feel like a field officer again. The nearest chute to Holly's position was E1 Terra. Not exactly an ideal location for a stealth mission, but with barely 2 hours of moon time left, there was no time for an overground jaunt. If there was to be any chance of sorting out this mess before sunrise, speed was of the essence. He commanded the E1 shuttle for his team, bumping a tour group who had apparently been online for 2 years. Tough nuggets, Root growled at the holiday rep. And what's more, I'm shutting down all non-essential flights until the present crisis is past. And then what? And when might that be? Squeaked the irate gnome, brandishing a notebook as though she were prepared to make a complaint of some kind. Root spat out the butt of his cigar, squashing it comprehensively beneath his boot heel. The symbolism was all too obvious. The chutes will be open, madame, when I feel like it, growled the commander, and if you and your fluorescent uniform don't get out of my way, I'll yank your operating license and have you thrown into the cells for obstructing an LEP officer. The holiday rep wilted before him and slunk back into line, wishing her uniform wasn't quite so pink. Foley was waiting at the pod. Serious though the moment was, he couldn't resist an amused whining at the sight of Root's belly wobbling over so slightly in his clinging jumpsuit. Are you sure about this, Commander? Generally, we only allow one passenger per pod. What do you mean, snarled Root. There is only one. Then he caught Foley's meaningful glance at his stomach. Oh, ha ha, very amusing. Keep it up, Foley. I have my limits, you know. But it was a hollow threat, and they both knew it. Not only had Foley built their communications network from scratch, but he was also a pioneer in the field of flare prediction. Without him, human technology could very easily catch up with the fairy brand. Root strapped himself into the pod. No half-century-old crafts for the commander. This baby was fresh off the assembly line, all silver and shiny with the new jagged fin stabilizers that were supposed to read the magnum currents automatically. Foley's innovation, of course. For a century or so, his pod designs had leaned toward the futuristic, plenty of neon and rubber. Lately, however, his sensibilities had become more retrospective, replacing the gadgetry with walnut dashes and leather upholstery. Root found this old-style decor strangely comforting. He wrapped his fingers around the joysticks and suddenly realized just how long it had been since he had ridden the hotshots. Foley noticed his discomfort. Don't worry, Chief, he said without the usual cynicism. It's like riding a unicorn. You'll never forget. Root grunted, unconvinced. Let's get this show on the road, he muttered, before I change my mind. Foley hauled the door across until the suction ring took hold, sealing the portal with a phonetic hiss. Root's face took on a green hue through the Cortez pane. He didn't look too scared anymore. Quite the opposite, in fact. Don't forget with Chapter 5, for the activity, you're going to want to do something with technology. There was lots of technology in this first part. The slow motion and the excitement of finding all the technology that the fairies had, as well as all the space travel time stuff. So I will get the second part on here soon.